How many diet apps do you have on your phone right now? How many books have you read? How many weeks did you cut out carbohydrates completely? How many mornings did you say no sugar today? How many times did you step on the scales, look at those numbers, and feel something sink inside you before the day had even properly begun, thinking, have I failed again? I counted once. 7 apps, 3 different books, 2 years of starting over every Monday, and the difference between each Monday and the one before, always the same. Then one day I looked at an old photograph of my grandmother, standing in the garden on a summer's day, squinting against the sun, wearing an apron, hair pinned up. And as I looked at that photograph, I realized that woman had never once dieted. She had never counted a calorie. She had never said, I'll start this week. And yet that waist in 1958, in 1971, in 1984 was the same. Same woman, same waist, unchanged for decades. How was that even possible? The answer was not willpower, not genetics, not luck. The answer was 10 habits that every woman in that era simply lived by, never named, never written into a book, never sold as a program. And this video is going to walk you through every single one of them. When you hear number 3, you'll think, was it really that simple? If you're ready to find out, subscribe and let's begin. Habit 1, 1954. Leeds, 6 o'clock in the morning. Dorothy has just woken up, hair still loose. She walks into the kitchen and lights the stove. A cup of water into the pot, a handful of oats, a pinch of salt. She leaves it on a low heat and goes to get dressed. 20 minutes later, she returns. The porridge is ready. From that morning's delivery, the bottle left on the step, cream still sitting at the top. She eats. She gets on with her day. She doesn't go back to the kitchen until 11 because she doesn't feel the need to. When I first tried this myself, real oats on the stove, 20 minutes, no sugar, I thought, is that really it? For the first time in as long as I could remember, I didn't find myself drifting into the kitchen at 10:30 without quite knowing why. The reason is actually very straightforward. The fiber structure of whole rolled oats slows digestion. Blood sugar rises gently without the spike and the crash. Fullness lasts 3 to 4 hours, genuinely lasts, not the kind where you're just trying to hold on. In the 1960s, Quaker introduced instant oat sachets. Then the flavored versions arrived. Apple and cinnamon, maple and brown sugar, strawberries and cream. Each sachet contained as much sugar as a chocolate bar. The oats were still there, but the advantage had largely gone with them. Dorothy's porridge cost 12 pence. The healthy breakfast industry today is worth $35 billion. Habit 2. On Dorothy's table there was water and milk. That was all. Fizzy drinks did exist, of course. Coca-Cola was already in Britain by the 1950s, but the bottle of that era held 6.5 ounces, a quarter of the size of today's standard 600ml bottle, and it was a special occasion drink, something for a Friday evening perhaps, or when guests came around. It was not part of the daily routine. The daily drinks were water and milk, delivered each morning in a glass bottle, left on the doorstep, cream gathered at the top. I tried this for a month, just this one thing, without changing what I ate or when I ate, only what I drank. Water and milk, nothing else. By the end of that month, I noticed something. I felt far less hungry between meals because nothing I was drinking was making me hungrier. Nothing in my glass was pushing my blood sugar up and then dropping it back down again. The global drinks industry is worth $300 billion, built entirely to replace water and milk. Dorothy didn't know any of this, of course. She just drank water and milk because there wasn't really anything else. Real habit 3, 1958, a factory floor. 10 o'clock in the morning, coffee break. Black coffee poured from a percolator, a ceramic mug, 2 calories, 15 minutes, back to work. Today, the menus of large coffee chains carry drinks that go by the name of coffee, between 300 and 600 calories each, some the equivalent of a full meal. Whipped cream, caramel sauce, cinnamon, sugar syrup, and somewhere underneath all of that, coffee. Jacqueline Kennedy, the most photographed woman of the 1960s, 8 years in the White House, 2 pregnancies, drank plain black coffee throughout every single day. Her personal secretary Mary Gallagher noted it specifically in her records, no exceptions. Not as a diet strategy, simply because that was what coffee was. After I learnt that, I sat down and worked out what I was spending at coffee chains each month. Not just the money, but when I thought about what was actually in those drinks, what they were doing to my blood sugar, I felt rather embarrassed, if I'm honest. Dorothy's coffee was 2 calories. Back then, a great many things were. Habit 4. There was no rule in Dorothy's house. Not really. There didn't need to be. Breakfast at 7, lunch at noon. The factory whistle blew and everyone stopped at the same moment. Supper at 6. Between those 3 points, there was simply no reason to go into the kitchen, because nothing had been invented yet to draw you back there. Doritos arrived in 1966, Pringles in 1968. Before them, the category of snack food didn't exist. No category means no habit. No habit means no industry. A paper published in Cell Metabolism in 2019 found that consistent meal timing, regardless of what was actually eaten, reduced total caloric intake and improved metabolic function. When the body grows accustomed to regular meal times, it adjusts digestion and hunger signals accordingly. Predictability changes everything. Dorothy didn't know any of that, of course. The factory whistle just blew at noon. Just a moment. If you've been watching this and thinking, my mother did exactly that, or my grandmother knew all of this, please do send this video to her. Sometimes a reminder is the kindest thing you can give someone. Let's carry on. Number 5 surprised me. Number 8 may well surprise you. Habit 5. On Friday mornings, Dorothy collected bread from the bakery. Heavy, dark-crusted, still warm. Carried home. The smell of it filled the street first, then the stairwell, then the entire kitchen the moment the door opened. That bread had 4 ingredients: flour, water, yeast, salt. Bread made with a long fermentation, like Dorothy's, has a lower glycemic index. The fermentation process breaks down a portion of the starches before they ever reach the stomach. The effect on blood sugar is far gentler. I look at a Wonder Bread label today. More than 30 ingredients. Because the industrial milling process strips out the nutrients naturally present in the wheat, vitamins are then added back in synthetic form, designed so that the bread lasts longer on the shelf, stays softer, and can be produced more quickly. Dorothy ate bread with every meal. Buttered bread. Never weighed, never measured. She was not overweight, because the bread she was eating was not the same product as the sliced white bread that fills supermarket shelves today. Same name, entirely different thing. Habit 6. Every Sunday, Dorothy made a beef pot roast, a generous piece of meat from the butcher. 4 hours in a Dutch oven on a low heat. Carrots, onion, celery, a bay leaf. The kitchen filled all afternoon with that warm, deep smell. Sunday evening it was served properly. Monday it was eaten cold with mustard. Tuesday morning, the bones went into a pot of water. 1 onion, 1 bay leaf, 6 hours on a low simmer. By Tuesday evening, that liquid had become soup. Dorothy didn't give it a special name. She didn't call it bone broth. She simply didn't throw the bones away, because throwing things away was wasteful, and in post-war Britain, waste was treated as something close to a moral failing. That same liquid is now sold at Whole Foods as a wellness product, £6 a carton. The label mentions collagen, gelatin, gut health. The compounds drawn out through slow simmering support the gut lining, slow digestion, and extend satiety. Dorothy didn't know any of that. She just didn't waste anything. Habit 7. Dorothy used butter. She used lard, rendered pork fat that went into the pastry, the pies, everything. She spooned the cream from the top of the milk into her coffee every morning for her entire life. In 1977, a committee in America published low-fat dietary guidelines. Fat was declared the enemy. Britain followed. Low-fat products arrived. Margarine arrived. Fat-free yogurt arrived. Shelves full of things labeled healthy. And from that point forward, and this stops me every single time I say it, obesity rates did not fall. They rose because this is what happened. Fat carries flavor. When you remove it, you need something to fill the gap. That something was sugar. Into every light product, every fat-free packet, sugar went, sometimes visibly, sometimes not. Dorothy's butter triggered satiety hormones. It raised blood sugar slowly, steadily. The brain received the signal, enough, stop. The fat-free version cannot fool the brain, because the brain did not evolve to be fooled. Habit 8. In Dorothy's cellar, there were jars. Cucumbers preserved in salted water. Cabbage that had been fermenting for 3 weeks from her own garden. Made with her own hands. She had learnt it from her mother years before. Her mother had learnt it from hers. The jars were part of preparing for winter. The summer's harvest stretched out to last through the cold months. The lactobacillus bacteria in those jars supported the gut flora, regulated digestion, helped satiety signals function more accurately. These are now sold as probiotics, £30 a bottle. But here is the difference. Dorothy's were alive. The jars we buy in supermarkets today have been heat processed. Everything living in them has been destroyed. The appearance is the same, the effect is entirely different. This habit seems small on its own, but across generations, at every meal, every single day, it worked quietly, invisibly, without ever being named. Habit 9. I know this might sound obvious, but stay with me for just a moment. In Dorothy's house, food was eaten at the table. A plate was brought. You sat down, you ate. It was cleared away. Not in front of the television, not standing up, not walking about, not in the car. And this was not simply a matter of manners. When you are not focused on something else while eating, a screen, a phone, a program, the brain receives fullness signals far more clearly. It takes 15 to 20 minutes for the stomach to communicate that it is full. If your attention is elsewhere during those 20 minutes, your hand keeps reaching into the packet empties, and you haven't even noticed it happen. I used to do this all the time. One evening, I sat down to eat while watching something. The plate was empty afterwards, but I couldn't remember any of it, what it tasted like, what I'd eaten, nothing. The plate was simply empty. In 1954, only 8% of British households owned a television. Distraction had not yet been invented in Dorothy's kitchen. Habit 10. And this one is the most important, perhaps the simplest looking, but the one working most deeply of all. Dorothy's kitchen closed. Supper would finish, the washing up would be done, the stove would go out, and the kitchen, until morning, would be closed. This was not a decision. Dorothy did not tell herself, I won't eat tonight. She didn't need to, because there was nothing there to draw her back. No packaged things waiting. Nothing sitting beside the sofa ready to be opened. Today the kitchen never really closes, because you don't even need to go to the kitchen. Everything is within reach. At 11 o'clock, in the middle of a program, there's something in your hand and you don't quite know when you picked it up. Dorothy's kitchen closed physically with the stove and mentally with the routine. And once it closed, her body rested, her digestive system rested, hormones reset. By morning, everything was ready to begin again. Today, this is called intermittent fasting. There are books, there are apps, there are courses. Dorothy did it every single night. In the days before it had a name, look at these 10 habits again. This was simply life. An ordinary Tuesday in 1950s Britain, and this was just how things were done. Working through this research, I found myself pausing again and again and thinking perhaps the problem was never our willpower, our discipline, or our motivation. Perhaps the problem is simply that the world around us looks so very different from Dorothy's kitchen, and to change that, we first need to understand what changed. This week, choose one thing from this list. Just one. No grand overhaul needed. Try it for a week, then come back and write in the comments. How did you feel? What did you notice? What shifted? I read every single comment. Every one. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and hit the bell so the next video finds you when it's ready. See you then.